Welcome, creators, to The Disruptors, Illuminate Your Frequency podcast. It's in the disruption of the luminescence that matter is created. In my last podcast, I was speaking about how our body regenerates in 120 days, how the skin, our nails, our red blood cells regenerate over 120 days, and it gave me this whole idea of applying this 120-day process to some of the things that I'm creating or learning or being or offering, to see if there's a way that we can create something new, just like our body recreates the different cells and the different parts of who we are, because we're constantly regenerating. So today I wanted to talk about learning new things, and we can use that 120-day principle in when we're learning new things. I know that sounds like a pretty boring podcast topic of learning new things. It sounds like I'm back at school. It sounds like this is going to be super boring. But I wanted to talk about the different aspects of learning new things, and depending on where you are, who you are, what your thoughts are, what your age is, what your background is, there's so many different things that make up how we think about something when we think we need to learn something new. I know that there is a general consensus of the older you get, the more you don't want to learn new things. I have found it is the opposite of me. The more I get older, the more things I want to learn. But that's just because of who I am now, and the way that I want to grow and expand my learning and my knowledge is by learning new things. And with new things that are happening around me, I always want to try and find out or learn about what these new things are as well. And that's just my own inner curiosity, and basically makes up who I am, is that constant desire to learn new things. But for many others, learning new things sounds like a horrible thing to do. And it's not really about the learning of the new things. It's getting out of that comfort zone of where you are now and where you think you need to be or you have to be. And I think that the resistance towards learning new things is, maybe you're stubborn AF and you don't want to learn new things, and you are very firm in your beliefs, and you do think that this is the way, this is all we need, I don't need to learn anything new. Or you could also have some fears where you think that you may not be smart enough to learn new things, or you don't want to look silly or stupid or dumb in front of others if someone's teaching you something and you're not getting it as quickly as someone else. And we know that this is not the case. This does not make you who you are, depending on how quickly or how well you learn things. I mean, we're all different. We all learn in different ways. And no, we don't need to know everything about everything. One example I can really give you is the way that my husband used to pretend he couldn't do anything. It would be, I can't do it. Can you do it? Oh, no, can you do that? I can't do it. No, I can't do that. I can't do it. Oh, can you do that? You're better. And that wasn't so much of, I don't want to learn it, I don't want to do it, it's going to be too hard. That was more of, I could be freaking bothered, I would rather get you to do it because I don't want to do it. And that was like a whole different take on not wanting to learn new things. And it can be a lot more difficult when you are coming into learning something new and you already have some sort of mindset or some idea or some perceived outcome of the way that it is, the way that it looks like, the way that it works, or whatever beliefs that you are holding on to it, that it can be more difficult than you actually make it to be. But if you look at some of the things that you've learned now and you look back 10 years ago, do you think that you would be doing or knowing about these things that you have actually learned? Because I remember even thinking, like, we went from we grew up with not having a mobile phone to being in a place where we can use mobile phones and do all these amazing things on a computer and on apps and things like that, there's no way back at school that you would have told us that we would be able to do all things without knowing, oh, would we? Would we really? And even seeing, your parents, you would think, oh no, oh my God, my parents are so old. They're not going to learn how to use all this new technology yet. Here's your grandmother sending you a text message like, oh my God, wow, how did you learn how to do that? So you can learn. We can get to a place where we can learn these new things. It's just the whole mindset around it, as well as finding ways for us to learn the things that work for us. And I know there are different learning styles of the way different people sort of respond and react to the way that we are being taught. And some people respond to certain ways better than other people. And I know myself, I've always been one of those kinesthetic learners where I need to be doing things. I need to be physically in it. If there's just someone sitting up on a screen just talking about something, it's like, oh, snore fest. But yes, we need a component of that, obviously, to hear and understand. But like with anything, I always need to do the thing in order to understand the thing. And that's the way that I learn. So if we do have these fears about learning and the way that we are trying to gather new information, the only way we're going to know which ones work for us is by trying them all out. If you like listening to someone just speaking to you, whether it's online or in person, and you like following along in your book and taking notes, and that's what works for you. But if you're someone who needs to listen to 10 minutes and then write stuff down and then go do something or create or try the thing that they're talking about, then go do that. Or you could be someone who likes all different ways. Maybe you like listening to things. Maybe you like reading things. There's so many different ways that we can learn. And that's why I've created this online learning portal for creators in a way that, first of all, works for me, because I'm a firm believer that there's no point putting things out there if it's not something that you would use yourself or something that you don't like. That's the first thing, regardless of whether you are aiming to bring in certain clients or a certain type of person. I am not big enough in a way to attract different people based on different ways I can attract them in. What I need to do for me right now is be able to offer things in the way that I would receive them. Because I honestly think that's the best way to run any business, is to make it yours in a way that works for you. Otherwise, if you're doing things you don't like, you're not going to want to do it for very long. Anyway, I digress. So the way that I have set up this creator code is still a mix of watching videos or listening to audio or reading things, so that you do get those different sort of ways of receiving the information. Because I know we can't just do it one way and say this is it. Well, we can if that's what works for us. But it is really good to mix it up and give you those different types of media, so you can go, oh yeah, I really like it that way, or I really don't like it that way at all. It's the same as if people like podcasts. Do they like watching podcasts? Do you like watching this video on YouTube? Or would you prefer to be listening to it in your headphones while you're walking down the street? I always found that if I'm listening to something, I need to be doing something else. I find it hard to say, okay, I'm just going to sit here and listen to a podcast, versus if I was watching a video and it was a podcast, or even if it was just a video, that there was a double interaction happening because I was watching it as well as listening to it. And what mostly happens as well, I do end up doing things a little bit as well while I'm watching, because I do like to be able to have that multi-skilling happening. But for me, if I'm just listening to something, then I need to be doing something else as well. I can't just listen. And I think that's why sometimes reading can be difficult for so many people. It's because, well, if I'm just reading, I'm not doing anything else. That's why the best way for me to listen to or to read a book is via an audiobook. And I can do that when I'm driving or when I'm doing something else, so that I'm doing more than one thing, because that's what works for me. And, you know, whether it's because I have to be multi-skilling, or maybe that's just what my experiences have given me, is the fact that I need to be doing more than one thing at once because of time constraints, or because I want to be doing so many things at once. Whatever it is, I know that's what works for me. So that's why I've set up my portal, so there will be a mix of different media, so you can receive information, you can go and do something, you can go and apply something, you can listen, you can watch, so that it can really cater to the different type of people who are going to be learning in there. But then it's also still based on what works for me, because I will listen to something. I've done many programs that have just been audio. I remember even sign into a program where it was live, but it was like an audio live. So it was like a telephone call, and you just listened. And it was it was so difficult for me to sort of, hang on a minute, how do I grasp this? I've got nothing to tie in what I'm listening to, because I don't have a visual to look at. Normally when someone is on screen and they're showing and you are looking at them, you're looking in the background, you're probably getting distracted. It was hard for me to really determine, well, what's happening? How am I going to associate? But the other side of that is you are actually listening to it more, because when you hear audio, you are more inclined to sort of hear what they're saying versus if you're watching a video. Because right now, while I'm speaking, you could be looking, oh, what's that book in the background? Oh, what's that photo? Oh my God, look at her hair. Why is it so messy? You would be thinking about all these things, and you may not hear some of the things that I'm saying, because you are getting distracted by looking at different things on the screen as well. So sometimes it can work for you and sometimes it can work against you. And that's why I know a lot of people used to say, you know, go back and listen to this again. You're like, well, why? Why do I want to listen to it again? And it's because when you are watching something on a video, you will miss pieces because you are looking in the background. And I know that a lot of people do try to make their background so they aren't so distracting, so that people do really hear the information. But I still believe that you are going to hear whatever you need to in the moment. And if you do need to listen again, you will listen again, or you will hear it again somewhere else, and it's going to really solidify whatever that new thing is that you are learning. But what do you do if you don't want to learn new things? What if you've decided, for instance, say that you wanted to offer something as a healer, you wanted to be able to share your information online, you don't learn all the online stuff. How do you work around that? How do you decide, well, people just come to me and find me. If I just do my normal weekly post on Facebook, then I'm going to get enough people to find me and hire me for my services. And yes, that might work. That might be exactly all you need to do in order to get those people to find you. However, there is a balance and a way that I think that we need to look at. Is it more of a block or a fear or some sort of mismatch that is allowing me to believe or perceive that learning these new things or showing up in new ways is something that I really don't want to do because of whatever the reason? And for me, I can speak of that being something for me as well, where I've been in many places where I have created offers or business ideas, built them up, did all the groundwork, did all the things that we needed to, learned all the things I needed to learn because it's a whole new world, and then get to that finish line and go, oh, I really want to do, and then burning it all down. And I've done that on many times, and it was only recently where it was the same thing, where I created all these new things and built it all up to a new place. But this time, instead of burning it down, I did the opposite of that, and I really built it up and refurbished it. And this also ties into my 120-day theory of how I need to refresh the things that I share, the things that I offer, the way that I offer them every 120 days as well. I find that I always continually want change and continually want it to look and feel and be different. And that's not because I'm not solid in who I am. That's because I am constantly changing. I am constantly expanding and growing. But there was a part of me prior to that that did not want to do some of those things that the people were telling the people, don't worry about the people. The people are always going to be telling you to do things. But there are a lot of things that I didn't want to do that I believed I didn't need to do because I'm an amazing spiritual being and I do not need to do anything to make things happen. And yes, we can believe that, but I think there is a healthy balance between allowing that to be our belief, where we do know that we are these energetic people that, you know, can really sort of align ourselves and bring in our own intuition and our own frequencies to create the life we want, not based on what everyone says and the way that we need to do it, but in a way that we get given our own intuitive direction and nudges towards the way that we need to show up and the things that we need to offer in the way that works for us. But there was a conflict for me of, oh, I want to sell things, but I don't want to sell things. And you could tie that into so many different sort of thoughts or fears or experiences, or, you know, how I was brought up, or the things I'd experienced in the way that selling was gross and disgusting. And, oh, I don't want to sell things. I don't want to be out there. Oh my God, that's so gross. Who wants to be a yucky old salesman? And that was something that I was holding on to. But it did take me a while to get to that place where I realized that that was the reason that I didn't want to do some of the things that I didn't have to do, but I knew would help me in a way to create the things that I really want. And that was purely based on a belief that I was holding, or a fear or experience or emotions that were still sitting within me that were creating that desire to build it all up and bring it all down. Thank goodness we've moved past it, being able to see that. But I get it and I understand it. And I think for us as creators, if we are in a place that we do want to try and put these things out there, but we do find that we are feeling these blocks or these things that we feel like, oh, I'm not doing that. I think we really need to tune into that and really make sure that it isn't just our intuition telling us, oh no, that's not aligned with me, versus, is there really a deep down hidden fear? Is there something more in that? And see how it feels and see if we can really get to the bottom of it, because it's not always, oh, it's not aligned with me right now. There could be another layer underneath. And I know it can be really hard to try and get to, but the way that I found to see where that fear or what that block is, or when I am telling myself, I'm not doing that, I will go and make attempts to do that thing that I don't want to do and see what happens. So if there was, because some of the experts, right? So say when you're selling something online and they're like, okay, go into your DMs and start messaging people about your latest offer. Like to me, that is like, oh, that's so gross. That sounds like slimy salesman. Because I will flip it, then think, if someone did that to me, how would I respond? How would I feel about it? And it's funny because there's different types of messages that you receive in your DMs. There are ones that are straight up cold call, copy and paste, where you can see someone's just sending this random message, versus someone who is actually having something that they have to offer that they think may benefit you and they want to share it with you. Maybe they've looked at your profile and found something about you and they've mentioned that in the message. Maybe they've actually taken the time to record a video message or an audio message. Maybe it comes across less, come and join this immediately, and more of, hey, I'm doing this thing. I don't know. I think maybe you could be interested in this. If you are, please come join us. It's a different energy between those different messages. And we all know what they're like, because we know there are some that were like, ugh, walk. And then there's other ones that's like, it's really interesting. What's that about? So when originally I first used to hear slip into people's messages, that was just me thinking that if you are trying to direct sell through messengers through messages like that is gross. But we know there's so many different layers to it. There's so many different ways to do it. And now if I do find someone that I think will benefit from something, I will send you a message, and I don't do it often. It is not part of any of my sales tactics, but I know sometimes if there is something or someone that I think can benefit from something I have, I will send them a message, and I will know whether it is something that is or could be beneficial for them, and whether they respond or not, that's not up to me. I've done what I thought was something that I believed would help them in that moment. And there's a big difference between that and cold calling and doing copy paste. However, that's not to say that that does not work for some people. But for me, that is not part of my strategy or who I am. So it's all about really feeling into it, finding the resistance, then trying to do it. Because there is no way right now that I could cold call, create a very straightforward message and send it to every single one of my contacts on Facebook or something. There's no way I could do that. And that's not because of a belief, that's just because that's not my strategy. But can I send a message to someone in Messenger to let them know of an offer? Yes. So I'm no longer holding on to the belief that anyone who slides into your DMs is gross and disgusting. And the only way I was able to find that was trying to actually do that thing that I thought was gross and yuck. So to me, that's one of the ways that you can really work through and see if that is a fear or a belief or something else that you're holding on to versus whether it's for you or not. So learning and finding things that work for you is always going to be a personal experience. It's always going to be something that's going to be different for you. It could even be that different ways of learning or embodying new things is going to be different based on the topic at hand. But whatever it is, you need to find that works for you. And the only way to do that is to try things out and see which ones feel good and which ones don't. But if you are interested in learning more about becoming an online creator and stepping into the digital content world, and you are scared of learning things, you need to come and join. You need to come and join my creator codes, because I promise, like, even if there's a new way that you want to be taught something, let me know, because I love hearing from other people and seeing new ways that we create and new ways that we can share and show people how to do things. If there are any things that you are struggling with learning how to do right now and you'd love to know more about, let me know, because I'd love your feedback as well. Okay, guys, I'll see you next week. And that's it for another epic dose of Disruptors Illuminate Your Frequency podcast.